Hello everybody, it's Noel Miller from Design Fitness, self-care expert and specialist in exercise prescription. So I wanted to talk about today the biggest limitation or biggest barrier to actually pursuing self-care. We might ask ourselves, why do people not take care of themselves appropriately in the first place? Whether it's mental, physical, or emotionally, why are we not um, let's say, motivated to do that? Essentially, this is the way that our body can always be able to heal itself or to restore itself, and that we can kind of step out of the way and it will do its own thing. However, the biggest block is always going to be one of moral conflict, essentially. It's the one big thing that we continuously play in our mind, or continuously think, or continuously act on that stops us from seeing the way that we need to help restore ourselves. We can say almost on the opposite side of this barrier is the exact thing that's going to help us easily, or more easily anyway, express our self-care and to honor our bodies and our minds and our feelings on topics so that we can better be able to navigate health in a long-term capacity. This is generally going to be something found in childhood, so it's a kind of belief in a way, or you could call it a belief system, I guess, where it's kind of reflected to us as children that this is the right way to be as an individual. This can be culturally, this can be just in the family dynamic, this can be actually in the reflection of the family. So my father was very aggressive and mean. I didn't like this, so I'm going to be more relaxed and passive in a way. So it's that kind of thinking, or it can be, well, your grandfather is very important to you. You looked up to him as a child, and he always said, um, a good man always works hard. Or your mother tells you, you know, a good lady's always quiet. Or these kind of sayings. And because these are so impactful, we see them so absolute from the childhood lens of life, they cause a lot of turmoil in adult life. And this is kind of the adult problem to solve. I talk a little bit about that in a different video. But the idea is essentially this causes a whole way of viewing life. And in this pursuit of viewing life, we only explore kind of one half, and that is the half that uh, was kind of expressed by this earlier viewing of life. Now, in that way, we'll generally at some point run into the limitations of that style of thinking. So somebody who's thinking that, you know, working hard is the best way to prove that you're a great person or a nice person or a valued individual will run into the problem of overworking their bodies, their minds, and they'll generally go into some kind of illness or sickness. It's going to happen. That is the end expression of that way of thinking. And to counteract this, if we weren't so driven by that kind of one way of thinking, we'd see that, you know, it's not really getting us where we want to get to. We keep pushing the same button, and although we're now maybe validated in the exact same way we thought we would be for being a very pioneering individual by working very hard, people look up at us and say, wow, you know what? I wish I could work as hard as you. Look how determined that person is. They got it all together. Look at all this amazing stuff they've accomplished. However, accomplishment is not fulfillment. So we can say that they are fully expressing a certain side of themselves, but not really the part that makes them feel more whole. And this is how we can tell that it is a compensation. Compensations always need to be re-evaluated or always have to be pursued in a way of having that short-term relief of doing good, essentially. But in the long run, it always fails. So if we could, in a way, look at, wow, you know what, we are doing good in this direction. However, if we look in the reverse, what are we really accomplishing? So the person that works hard, are they spending enough time with the people that are important to them? They might find that working hard is a way of giving back to their loved ones, their partners, their children. However, the children and partners feel it as distance because it is distance. And they don't have the same way of looking at life as the person that's working so hard. There was a time in history where there was a lot more role definitions. So the male did this, the female did that, the children did this. And because they were a lot more general, people would say, well, that is a good man that does those things. That is a good lady that does those things. That is a good child. That child's going to be a great adult because they do these things. However, it's 2020 and those things really don't exist. It's a lot more fluid, and because of this, it causes a lot of, say, mental, social challenges in a way. But that's not the point of this video. The idea is that we have to look deeper on the other side of the actions that we do every day. How is this affecting the people around us? And essentially, if we even ask the people of how they view our personality, for the good and for the bad, and things that we might change or things that we could look into, they'll most likely, if they care enough in a more way to help you, then they'll point out quickly the things that you need to work on. But generally, we take offense to this. It seems mean or seems untrue because we're very invested in the way that we're already looking at how we're accomplishing things or the path that we're following. And we might resent the person for this. There's going to be several times if you follow this kind of path to its zenith, its highest point, people will try to stop you from going that way. Some may be jealousy, but the majority of the people that care for you is mainly to preserve a kind of happiness that they're seeing that you're losing in this pursuit. So this, all in all, are different pieces of how it's kind of expressed, but this is the biggest barrier to just simply going with self-care, is we don't want to know what the other side is, because on the other side is things that we don't know, and that's generally scary. The reason why taking a look at your health before you're actually sick is kind of scary is the fact that you might already be sick. Well, the only way to prevent the sickness is to look at your health before that point. And that becomes the whole barrier. The person that yells most often doesn't know that they yell that much. It seems like they don't yell at all. And they might have been a part of an environment that there's tons of yelling. And at a certain pitch or high point of yelling, they consider that yelling. And what somebody else in a very quiet home would consider yelling is just a stern voice. So there's all these things that we have to reevaluate, look at, integrate, and become more ourselves, and not just stuck in our childhood perceptions of how life should be without putting out the appropriate energy to exploring the full thing. Hopefully that was a little insightful. It makes a little sense.